Welcome back or welcome to Elements of Elaha, where I talk about things that interest me, affect me, or am very passionate about. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the evolution of African representation in American media. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So growing up as an African kid, a first gen Nigerian, in America, there was little African representation you would see on TV. Any time where you would have characters mention different countries, you would hear them be able to name numerous countries in Europe or numerous countries in Asia. But when it came to Africa, it was just Africa. They always referred to Africa like it was a country and not a continent. And the few times that we would get African representation, it would be from a fictional African country. And the biggest example of this is Wakanda. And a lot of times with these fictional African countries, they would take elements from different African countries and just mesh it into one. For example, Black Panthers, T'Challa and Shuri are South African names. Ayo and Okoye are Nigerian names. Wakanda geographically is located in East Africa. Ramonda is mentioned to be the daughter of Lumumba, and Lumumba is a Congolese name, and they speak a South African language. So when it came to different Black actors across the diaspora playing these roles, of course I wasn't mad at it because Wakanda itself is a mesh of different African countries, cultures, just mixed all up into one. And Wakanda was created by a white man, Stan Lee. So how am I gonna be mad? Then another famous fictional African country is Zamunda, and Zamunda is the fictional African country that Prince Akeem from Coming to America was from. Then we would also have one off African characters from fictional African countries in Disney Channel's Black-led shows, specifically That's So Raven and KC Undercover. That's So Raven had an episode in season 3 where Tendaji, an African prince from Shikobi, comes to Bayside High for an episode. And basically, after Raven stands up for him, after he gets picked on for wearing his African clothing, he gifts her a few gifts in traditional Shikobi customs because he wanted Raven to be his wife. But Raven did not know that at all until Chelsea and Eddie came to go and stop the wedding. Raven just thought, okay, these are nice gifts, especially the beautiful red gown that he got her, but she did not know that was saying that she did not know that saying yes to the gifts, especially saying yes to the dress, was basically saying she wants to be his wife. And I completely forgot KC Undercover had this African prince plotline too, because this character was only in one episode. I saw this one account on Twitter. There's this one account called Sitcom Crave that posts clips from new and older sitcoms. And they were talking about, you remember when KC Undercover had this one African prince stay at her house? And I was like, huh? There's an African character on KC Undercover? And of course I didn't remember because he was only in one episode. But the African prince I am going to be talking about, his name is Prince Promomomo. Prince Promomomo is from the fictional country of Tanzania, and he stays with the Coopers after he is almost assassinated by his nemesis Olu. So he stays with the Coopers so that he can be able to sign a peace treaty. And he does show interest in Casey, but of course, he's never seen or mentioned again after this episode. And it was literally in the first season of the show. So that's probably why I don't remember it, because that was over 10 years ago. But as you can see, African representation for us was literally in the trenches. And then another one that really stuck with me was the very poor African representation in none other than Jessie. Jessie was honestly a show full of stereotypes, because how can you have a cast with kids of all different backgrounds, right? And be so stereotypical in both Jessie and Bunked, its spinoff. But I'm gonna highlight the one black girl on the show, Zuri Ross, played by the beautiful Sky Jackson. And Zuri Ross was adopted by Morgan and Christina Ross from Uganda. And there's this one episode in Jessie, I think it was either the second or third season, where we officially find out that Zuri was adopted from Uganda. And instead of really doing like research into traditional Ugandan customs and Ugandan culture, Ugandan language, all that, Disney thought it'd be cute for them to just do the most like stereotypical representation of Africa. Like it was a literal safari. And so you see like a bunch of zebras and giraffes there. And I was like, this is supposed to be representation. And then I remember in season 4, Jessie and the Ross kids go to visit her ex fiance Brooks in Africa. Again, they just mentioned Africa like it's a country. And the literal name of the episode is But Africa is Safari. It's a play on safari. And yeah, when they get to Africa, Brooks is shooting a movie, and literally, we just get this stereotypical Lion King esque representation of Africa, that it's just like this big safari. There's lions, zebras, and giraffes everywhere. There was also a Nigerian character in The Color of Friendship, but his accent was just so generalized that I couldn't even tell that he was Nigerian. It was the same in non Disney movies as well. Whenever we would actually get an African character from an actual African country, usually they would be Nigerian. Whenever we would see them, they would be the most stereotypical accent. You couldn't even tell that that was an African accent, but it was supposed to be an African accent. And so these characters would usually be like the bad businessman or a pimp. Like one of the most recent ones going viral on Twitter right now is a clip from the movie Zola, and Coleman Domingo is supposed to be playing a Nigerian taxi driver, but you can't even tell. I'll put the clip here because it was outrageous.
One, get your coin, sis. It's been real. I'm out.
Hey! Shut the fucking door, bitch!
Where the fuck you from, nigga?
Nigga, where the fuck you?
Michael Blackson, a famous Ghanaian comedian, played an angry African customer in the Friday sequel. And then the only two movies that come to mind where an African man does play the love interest in a black movie is Beauty Shop and Fat Girls. Then, other than that, again, it wasn't much. Even today, you still see a bunch of one off characters in TV shows. I know Abbott Elementary had a Nigerian student in season 2 because their last name was Okafor, but they pronounced it Okafor. There's this woman named Chichi in This Is Us. The next thing I want to talk about is the West finally catching on to Afrobeats. Because since African representation was literally minuscule, all we got were fictional African countries, or the stereotypical representation, or the Lion King-esque safari representation. People outside the African community weren't really checking for African culture, African music at all. Like, if you were outside the African community, it just wasn't a thing that was being talked about like that. The only time I would be talking about Afrobeats would be with my fellow African friends, and the only time I would hear Afrobeats would be at African functions. So during this time in the 2010s, the only time African artists would be represented would be at the BET Awards. And the BET Awards had an award for the best international act in Africa. And it was given to honor the outstanding achievements of international artists from Africa every year before being combined with the other BET Award international acts. So this was first awarded in 2010, and Wizkid currently has the most wins in that category, but this award was never televised on screen. So back in 2015, several African and UK artists criticized BET's treatment for them, saying that their awards were presented to them in a pre-recorded segment backstage. It wasn't until African artists, especially Nigerian artists, started collaborating with Western artists that they finally started to get some shine. Like when Wizkid collaborated with Drake for One Dance and the song hit #1. And especially something that really opened the door for Afrobeats to get their shine. First in the Black American community and then other American communities and Western communities was when Beyonce released her The Gift album, the soundtrack album that she paired with the release of the live action Lion King back in 2019, where she collaborated with Nigerian, Ghanaian, and South African artists. I think that's really what opened the door for the West, especially America, to finally put some spotlight on Afrobeats. Because before that, as you guys saw, African artists were basically getting the silent treatment, the cold shoulder. Then, another thing that I can credit is the rise of TikTok, especially during the lockdown. That's really what pushed Afrobeats in the mainstream. And of course, you gotta give credit to none other than Wizkid and Tems for Essence. 2021, you could not go anywhere without hearing.
You don't need no other body. You don't need no other body. When you feel my body.
Yes. Essence. And then there's so many songs that came after that. Love Mwatiti by CK, Peru, Calm Down, Last, so many other songs. Like from late 2020 to 2023, there was a different Afrobeat song that was going viral every month. And then once they would collaborate with Western artists for the remix, then the song would get even bigger. And Afrobeats became something that American award shows could not ignore anymore. So, back in 2022, the American Music Awards were the first major music awards to add an Afrobeats category. They added favorite Afrobeats artists at the show that aired on November 20th, 2022, and Wizkid was the winner of this category, and other Nigerian artists that were nominated were Burna Boy, CK, Fireboy, DML, and Tems. Then, in 2024, the MTV Video Music Awards added a category, Best Afrobeats. Also in 2024, the Grammys added Best African Music Performance. So honestly, when it comes to American publications' opinions on Afrobeats, they are pretty much null and void. They are very much irrelevant. Because they, as you can see, they didn't start recognizing Afrobeats until the pandemic, until they became so big on social media that they just could not ignore African artists anymore. Because for Western artists, whether they come from the US, it's a lot easier for non-American acts from North America and Europe to break into the main general categories: American, Canadian, and British acts. It's a lot easier for them to break into those categories and win in said categories. But when it comes to African artists, they were largely ignored by these organizations for years, and then they only get one singular category. When Afrobeats as a genre is so diverse, honestly, when it comes to Afrobeats, I use it as an umbrella term because it's a mix of so many things. The name Afrobeats derives from the original genre Afrobeats that was pioneered by the king of Afrobeats, Fela Kuti. And Afrobeats mixes up the original Afrobeats, which was a mixture of jazz, funk, and Ghanaian high life music. And back in the 2010s, Afrobeats music was a mix of EDM and dancehall music, hip hop, R&B. Like, Afrobeats is just a mix of so many things. So anytime where I hear African artists be like, "Oh, I'm not Afrobeats, I'm Afrofusion," when Afrobeats itself is a mix of multiple different genres. There's Afro R&B, there's Afro pop, there's EDM sounding Afrobeats music, there's some rock sounding Afrobeats music, like there's some soca sounding Afrobeats music. Afrobeat is a mixture of African and Black American genres. So of course, Afrobeats would follow in those footsteps by mixing the original Afrobeat and then mixing Western genres and African genres. Boom. Saying, "Oh, I'm not Afrobeats, I'm Afrofusion," when it's literally the same thing. I will say, when it comes to streaming services, not only should they categorize these EPs, albums, and singles under Afrobeats, but they should also do it under the subgenres for these artists as well. Like, they should be under Afrobeats and pop, Afrobeats and R&B, Afrobeats and hip hop, Afrobeats and dancehall, Afrobeats and soul, Afrobeats and jazz, etc. I do hate that when it came to the remixes of the popular Afrobeat songs that went viral on TikTok, the remixes would get played a lot more than the original, which sucked because the original was way better. But of course, they had to collaborate with these artists in order to get recognition from these organizations and become bigger. But yeah, it just sucks. Because when Billboard came out with their list a few months ago talking about these artists were one-hit wonders, the face of that, they decided to make Rema the face of that by saying Calm Down was his only hits. And when he collaborated with Selena Gomez with the remix, it reached the top 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. And they're saying, oh, he hasn't had a hit since, which is why you can't take these publications seriously. Y'all just started paying attention to Afrobeats in 2021, and I'm supposed to take y'all seriously? The Grammys just honored Fela Kuti this year. This year, Fela Kuti, the pioneer of Afrobeats in the 60s and 70s, the Grammys were just honoring him this year in 2026. And I'm supposed to take what the Grammys and the Billboard say seriously? Y'all weren't there for Flavor, for P Square, for Tubaba, earlier Wizkid, earlier Burna Boy, Don Jazzy, Corday Bello,
Timaya, and I can't forget my queens Yemi Alade and Tiwa Savage.
And I'm supposed to take y'all seriously? And we've definitely come a long way when it comes to African representation in TV, because now we have a whole bunch of African creators getting to tell their stories to the world. And the first 2 shows I want to highlight is one, Jeff Colby in the Dynasty reboot is played by a Nigerian actor, Sam Adegoke, and his Yoruba heritage is very much reflected in his character. So all 5 seasons of Dynasty are streaming on Netflix. And back in 2019, Bob Hart's Abishola came out, and it was the first primetime network show to feature a Nigerian woman as the co-lead of the show. And the show ran on for 5 seasons, and it did a good job highlighting Nigerian culture and bringing it to the West.
All 5 seasons of the show are streaming on Paramount Plus.
Then a few shows that came out this past decade were Iyanu, and Iyanu is currently running on Cartoon Network and HBO Max. And Iyanu is a cartoon that takes place in the Yoruba-inspired world and follows the title character, a teenage orphan girl who discovers that she has the power that has not been seen since the Age of Wonders. She joins with her friends Biyi and Toye, and they embark on a remarkable journey to discover the truth about the evil lurking in her homeland. Throughout her adventure, she discovers the truth about her past, her parents, and her destiny to save the world. Another show that is made by a Nigerian creator is the limited series Iwaju on Disney Plus, and it is an original animated series set in a futuristic Lagos, Nigeria, and it is a coming-of-age story that follows Tola, a young girl from the wealthy island, and her best friend Kole, a self-taught tech expert, as they discover the secrets and dangers hidden in their different worlds. And it is produced by Kigali Media. It's an African-owned animation company, and Iwaju is currently streaming on Disney Plus. Another show I want to highlight is the limited anthology series Kizazi Moto Generation Fire on Disney Plus, and each film is from a different African perspective. So creators from Zimbabwe, South Africa, Uganda, Nigeria, Kenya, and Egypt came together to work on a 10-part series of original animated films. And they touch on themes such as social media, duality, disability, self-reflection, shared humanity, and other topics, with stories which include time travel, extraterrestrials, and alternate universes. Then something sweet for the kids, a show I want to highlight is Super Sema, and it is the first African kid superhero animated series about an ordinary young girl on an extraordinary mission to protect her African village from a heartless villain and his army of pesky robots. And Sema is Kenyan. And the last show I want to highlight is Super Team 4 on Netflix. And it is about 4 teenage girls in a neo-futuristic city, Lusaka, in Zambia. And they're recruited by a now retired secret agent who wants to save the world while sticking to a budget. In the process, these girls juggle their school lives and being superheroes who fend off supervillains, turning from 4 friends into a superhero team, Super Team 4. So, brief rundown. Iwaju and Kazazi Moto are available to watch on Disney+. Iyanu is available to watch on HBO Max. Super Team 4 is available to watch on Netflix, and Super Sema is available to watch on YouTube. So anyways, y'all, that is the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe, and check out my last video right here. Anyways, y'all, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.